Hello, everybody. Ooh, that came out of nowhere. Me and Zeppy are here today to do a video with you again. Hey, Zeppy. I'm still having troubles with everything, so, I'm so sorry. While, I'm unable to normally function, I'm going to do it on the laptop. So let's get everything done here, and we'll get through everything as best I can. Ask me any questions you have. Like always, that'll be a priority. Hey, artist, how you doing today? With that being said, we got a big 15-game slate today. I expect a lot of lineups to come out while we're talking over the next however long this takes, or until my wife gets home. But let's get going. Like I said, time is short. First game is the easy game, Miami versus Washington. Yeah, it's night. Hey, Rich, it's 90 and humid as hell here, which is probably right about what it is in Florida. It's, not pleasant in the East, man. Not pleasant in the East. So we got Patrick Corbin going against Zach Gallen here. I actually really like this as a pitcher's game for both. Gallen is a fantastic pitcher, way too cheap at 7,900. My projections are free today. If you are, even if you're just like a free member, which I have the free membership, because I don't, there are things that I want the public to be able to see, and then there are things that I want members to be able to see, even if they're not paid members. So that is the projections that I linked in the chat there. They are free today, and I stand by them vehemently. So if you want to take a look at who I like today, minus the video, take a look at that. There is so much there that, I build in recent form. So hot and cold is already built into the projections. Splits, I built a formula to account for splits in the projections. So a pitcher with good splits and batters with good splits against one another, it all factors in to one another. So, I have a lot of math in there, and I really stand by everything. So take a look at the projections there. They are free for now. They're going to go back to paid members only as soon as the stomach issues relent and I can do normal things again. I'm already getting nauseous just from talking this short amount of time. So I don't know how long I'm going to be able to last. So let's get going, because I probably am going to wind up throwing up at some point. Oh, God. Okay. Marlins Nationals. Zach Gallen, far underpriced at 7,900. If you look at the projections, I have Patrick Corbin getting about 16.5 points on DraftKings, and I have Zach Gallen getting about 15.25. So, there is a difference of 1.2 DKP between Gallen and Corbin, according to my projections, but there is a $3,200 price difference. Now, I understand that, Corbin is a good pitcher and Gallen's a rookie. I understand the Nationals are a good offense and Miami is the worst offense in the last, 100 years of baseball. But at the same time, as I've explained in the past week, the Marlins young pitchers are not a joke. The Marlins team is a joke. There's a lot about the Marlins that are worthy of laughter and derision. And believe me, as a baseball fan, I hate the fact that they're playing with the team the way they're playing with them, like suing people for not renewing season tickets and putting their business operations offshore so they can, avoid taxes and all this other horrible stuff in a state where there's already no income tax. So, there's a lot there that I really hate, but those young pitchers, those are really nice. And Zach Gallen might be the best of all of them, with Eliezer Hernandez and all those guys, Yamamoto. They got a lot of really, really good dudes. Well, Caleb Smith is going to be the best one of all of them, but Zach Gallen is probably the second best one, or the best one that's currently not on the injured list. So Gallen tonight is going to be one of my favorite pitchers, GPP. I don't know if you can trust him in cash. The Nats have been in pretty good form lately. But that being said, 7,900 is just far too cheap for someone with that upside and that projection. There are not many picks I have today getting to 2 times value. Zach Gallen's at 1.9, Musgrove at 2.15, Charlie Morton at 2.43. I have Ross Stripling, who I have to look up. I have Ross Stripling going more innings than I think he will, but I have him at 3 times value, so he's going to be, way better. And then I have Flaherty and LeBlanc each at about 2 times value, and Matt Strahm at 2.16 times value with the wonderful matchup in the Pitcher's Park against San Francisco. So there are a few expensive pitchers that are going to get really good value and a few mid-priced and cheaper pitchers that are going to get it. And Gallen is definitely one of them. So however you want to do it, add them to your pool, whatever you want to do. But Gallen should definitely be one of the considered pitchers that you go with today. In terms of Corbin, excuse me. Corbin, again, I like as a pitcher. I think Corbin is a good pitcher. But the fact that he's $500 more expensive than Charlie Morton on DraftKings is absolutely ludicrous. I don't think there's really any way that I could go there if I'm building one lineup. If you're doing 150, go nuts. Make sure you have your exposure to all of those expensive dudes. All of those expensive dudes are gonna, be able to get you a amount of points. Probably, it depends on Mike Minor. I'm a little wary of given his recent form, but all of them have the ceiling and the potential, to get you 40 DKP today. So while the odds might be 5 to 10% for them to have one of those starts, whereas Morton might be 20%. That doesn't mean that one will and one won't. It just means that you're trying to play the slim odds as best you can. And there are enough pitchers today and there are enough slim odds that it's going to be interesting. So let's keep it going. Corbin, again, I would have exposure to him if I'm playing a bunch of lineups. But Gallen I would have as one of the priorities. I'm going to have to, like I said, I'm going to have to do some looking up on Stripling to see if he's being pitch limited today. I have seen nothing about that. So I'm going to assume that is not the case. And then if that is not the case, that is not easy to say. Then I'm going to be a big fan of Ross Stripling today. I'm trying to look that up right now. I cannot find the game. Where the hell is it? Is it just not showing up because my browser's too thin? Hold on a second, my friends. Yep, it wasn't showing up because my browser was not wide enough. So now I can't see anything. Okay. He is unlikely to be cleared for a full starter's workload. His last start, he made it through 3 innings, but that's deceptive because he got 60 pitches out of those 3 innings. So I think we can assume Stripling is going to get up to about 80, 85 pitches today, which means that if he throws a good 15 pitches an inning, he could still get the quality start and the win, but it does limit his upside somewhat. So whereas I had projected him to get maybe 7 innings, let's see what I have here in my back end. Not that you can see it, but I have all my back end stuff. Stripling, right now I have Ross Stripling projected to get 7 innings, so that's not going to happen. 75 this time, not 80. Okay, thank you, Ethan. I appreciate that. I love Pitcher List, by the way. Love. If you guys don't check out Pitcher List, check it out because they are one of the best out there. So I'm going to adjust my projection on Stripling as we speak right now to 5 innings with that, and assume that he has 5 good innings, because Ross Stripling is a very good pitcher. He should have, a no-hitter under his belt, but don't get me started on the LA Dodgers and how they're saving people for, question marks. There are very few. I've talked about things that make me really, really angry. No, that's cool. I appreciate it, Ethan. I'm going to definitely check it out. I look at pitcher lists all the time for pitch selection, pitch percentages, and I look at it for, I like to see how pitches move, because I've talked about it in great detail. The reason that splits show things is because, a ball moving in on somebody is easier to hit than the ball moving away from somebody. So I like to see, if a four-seam fastball has a little bit of a tail to it with people. I like to see if their slider is more of like a horizontal slider or if it's more vertical, and that affects how people are going to be able to hit the pitch based on their strengths and weaknesses. It's a full-service game, this baseball. Okay, so with the new projection, it has Ross Stripling getting 18.7 DKP, 2.4 value, which still puts him as the best value on the slate. We just can't expect him, to get the 40 FanDuel points that I had him when I thought he was going to get the quality start. So there you go with that. So that's more of a summary of everything. I really need to get going, though, because the nausea is not pleasant. All right. Thank you, though, Ethan. I really do appreciate all that information. So Zach Allen is still going to be under Ross Stripling. But, again, if you're playing, even 5 lineups, I think Gallen is a fantastic pivot. He's going to be what I would consider dramatically under-owned today. There's just too much upside. There's just too much talent that this kid has. And, let's be frank, this is not a Marlins team that is really built up. Excuse me. Ooh, I'm so sorry. This isn't a Marlins team that's really well built in any area. So if they have a young starter that's doing well, they have no problem letting that kid ride. They're not afraid to let him get over 100 pitches and show that upside. I don't expect him to Maddox it out today, but I do expect him, again, to have a very, very good start. Let's see. Right now, his projected ownership, according to Roto Grinders, is, I still haven't seen his name. I just need to zoom in a little because I'm very, very tiny. I don't see his name. Oh, there. Nope, that's Corbin. Where the hell is he? There he is. 3% projected ownership. Ridiculous. Meanwhile, Stripling is... Where is it? Oh, God. 10%. Also ridiculous. Matt Strom looks really high. He's at 26%. Flaherty, 24%. Morton is 4th at 19%. That's ridiculous as well. No, not at all, Jeff. It doesn't. There are some pitchers that are good enough, and the Diamondbacks cycle their lineups enough with Castro and Vargas coming in. They have 3 different catchers that they use, and they're projected to use a different catcher today. I don't worry about that much. If it's like a mediocre pitcher, then that's much more a cause for concern. But other than that, no, it doesn't. All right, let's move on. We got Hendricks and Musgrove. Hendricks is coming off the IL, I believe, which means he's going to be limited, which means I don't think there's any way you could pay the $9,000 for him. On top of that, the Pirates have been red hot yesterday. There's somebody on Flick yesterday, Thought Receiver, I believe his name is. And we were talking about the Pirates yesterday, and he was saying that he was a big, big fan. And I was saying how, small slate, you can go there, but I really liked Alzolay last night. I saw the fourth that he got against the Mets. I saw his minor league stuff. His stuff is just incredible. He just couldn't find the plate. He walked everybody, and like I said, when you don't have control, you're just as likely to throw the ball right over the middle of the plate as you are to miss the plate by 3 feet. So the Pirates teed off, and they are incredibly hot hitting right now. So, while Hendricks is generally good at keeping the ball on the ground, I don't think there's any way you could pay the $9,000 for Hendricks. And while, realistically, there are better offenses in better spots tonight, I am a very big proponent of riding the hot hand, especially when all of that stuff adds up so well, as it does today for this Pirates team. Newman, Reynolds, Marte, Bell all look fantastic, and you could do worse than Moran at 3,400 or Dickerson at 3,900. It's not like these guys are 5,000. Even Josh Bell, after his 3 home run game, is only 4,700, which is ludicrous for someone who is, going to be top 3 in the MVP voting this year. So, this is not a spot where I'm on Hendricks. So, if you want to take Pirates bats as your stack, they are still going to be unowned today. And, they showed you yesterday what they really can do when they are hot as a lineup together. And you can keep riding that. On the other side, we have Joe Musgrove, who I do not like today. I project him to do well and get 2 times value, but that's more of the fact that he is 5,900 and not a look into his skill level or how he's been pitching recently. Musgrove is not that good, and he is going against a very good, Chicago team where the weather conditions are better for the ball to travel, right? So that being said, and I think this is, really important, Musgrove, his last 2 starts were against Houston Astros in Houston. Yeah, absolutely. He's just been, oh man, Josh Bell has looked amazing. Amazing. I just think he's that kind of hitter, and he has that kind of drive, and, that dude has – baseball was waiting for him to go off because he had that talent, and they thought last year was going to be the year. And the fact that he did so mediocre last year gave cause for concern, the way it gave cause for concern that Byron Buxton hadn't done well his first few years. But this year, Bell is putting it together. Buxton, too, to a large degree. But Bell is, like I said, and I've said many times, if not for Yelich and Bellinger, Bell is runaway MVP. There's no one else even in the class of those 3 in the National League at this point. So, any day that you can get Bell for like 1,000 less than those guys, you got to ride with it. But like I was pointing out about Musgrove, he's 5,900. I don't like him against a good Cubs lineup, but, I didn't like him against the Astros either. And in that game, he got, 6 innings and 5 strikeouts, which is good enough, 12 ground balls to 4 fly balls, which is, very good for the pitcher, very bad to stack against, 22.1 DKP. The game before that against San Diego, he got 8 strikeouts in 7 innings, 30.8 DKP. So this is a dude that has the ability to get to 30 DKP. At 5,900, that is incredible value. Oh boy. Ooh, I almost threw up. That's bad. Sorry, guys and ladies. I am trying my hardest. I want to get out the information to you all, and it just hurts so much to sit up to type, and it takes like 3 hours. So I just want to try to get everything. I could do the research on my phone, but I'm not going to lay down and Periscope. and I can't get all the stats that I want to quote for you guys and the prices and everything while I do that. So it's, the information wouldn't be as good. So I want to be able to do this, and I apologize that I'm not in full strength, but I'm fighting a lot of problems here. So I think that if you are going GPP, if you are looking for that punt because you need some bats today, and the 6,000 range isn't good enough, the 7,000 range isn't good enough, Musgrove at 5,900 is a really decent GPP play. I would not be shocked at all if he gets you 20 DKP today, and that's going to be one of the best, if not the best value that any pitcher on DraftKings is going to put up for you. So, while it is not a cash play, while it is worrying against one of the better offenses in the National League, you cannot completely rule out Musgrove today. Truly, truly cannot, especially given the recent form. Moving on, we got Price and Thornton, the Red Sox at the Blue Jays. David Price is a good pitcher. I would not want to stack against him, but he's not anywhere near one of my favorites of the day. He's in that if you're playing 150, wife is on the way. So my wife will be here soon, which means we're gonna really go into overdrive. Price is in the tier of, like, if you're playing 150, I'd have some exposure to him, but I'm not prioritizing. On the other side, Trent Thornton is a good pitcher with decent strikeout upside, but as I've talked about in articles, he's one of those dudes that, I like to target against weaker offenses with high strikeout upside. But if the team doesn't miss, doesn't have like a swinging miss rate, I don't know the proper terminology because I'm about to throw up. If that's not high and they don't strike out a lot, it's a very bad matchup for Thornton, which means the Red Sox are a very bad matchup for Thornton. They are, as of right now, since we've just started this, my number one stack of the day, if you're keeping track. So again, we have a few good pitchers, a Pirates stack that's a good GPP play, and then a Red Sox stack that I legitimately like, although there are going to be better stacks coming later on. Next up, we have Chase Anderson against Tanner Roark, the Brewers at the Reds. This is one where the weather is just going to be gorgeous for hitting. So please give me all of the bats in this game. I don't want Anderson. I don't want Roark at all. I would not call you crazy if you faded them, if you're playing 25 lineups. I wouldn't call you crazy if you faded Chase Anderson in 150, although I would have, at least a couple lineups with Roark if you are playing the 150. But this is one where the bats are going to be fantastic today. Everyone's going to be on the Brewers because the Brewers are a fantastic offense. And, oh, God, this is really hard. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do medicine. That helps me not throw up and helps the pain. So it's a double bonus. Okay, so everyone's going to be on the Brewers because the Brewers are one of the best offenses. People are not going to be on the Reds, and I think that is a big mistake. Senzel, Votto, Suarez, Jeanette, Puig, the 1 through 5, I have a ton of interest in. I don't really want Iglesias, Irvin, or Farmer, and that is an official Reds lineup that's come out. But that's the one thing that I did want to talk about. With Tucker Barnhart going on the IL, the Reds have been using Kurt Casale as their catcher, and then Kyle Farmer has been playing the field because that's what he does. Kyle Farmer is starting behind the plate for the Reds today. That is a big downgrade to Tanner Roark and a big upgrade to the Brewers' offense and to their base stealers, which is something that you can think about. So, a Keston Hiura, has more chance today of, now that, he's probably batting 7th in front of the pitcher, of getting you some power and some speed stats. So, there's just a lot to love in that game. And I would put them both, in great consideration for the best stack of the day. Easily. Next up is the excuse me, sorry folks, I'm trying. Next up is the Orioles at the Rays. This is actually my favorite pitcher of the day and my favorite stack of the day. Morton is underpriced at 10.6. And Asher Wojciechowski. Man, I love Polish names. I grew up with them, so I know how to say them, and I love them. Asher Wojciechowski, 6,900 is way too expensive for how bad a pitcher he is, and he's going to get shelled. I know there's a Coors Field game, and I know that there's a lot of offenses that people are going to be looking at. I want all of the Tampa Bay Rays today. Give me Tampa Bay first overall, period. No questions asked. And then give me Charlie Morton as the best pitcher of the day. That one was really easy. Next up is the Yankees and the Mets, James Paxton and Zach Wheeler. This is one where I'm not looking at the pitchers at all. I think that Paxton and Wheeler aren't going to draw very high ownership, but they'll draw respectable enough ownership that I just don't want anything to do with it. Both of these lineups are good enough. I don't want to stack against these pitchers. But I also don't want to really play them either. There are too many pitchers and too many other options around the price range of these guys that I would much rather have. I can see taking a run at the Yankees, but just know that, Wheeler is trying to get off this Mets team. He is going to be traded, and the Yankees are one of the teams that is looking at him very closely. So this is a really important start for him in multiple ways. So, if you want to take a GPP's chance on the narrative there, I would. But, this is just one where you can always take a Yankees stack any day. I've said it like the Dodgers, like the Red Sox, like the Astros. There is no pitcher against whom you cannot stack those four teams any given day. It's at least a GPP play. But, again, there are plenty of better offenses. Neither of those teams is going to get 5 runs. And that, there's a ton of teams that are going to get 6. So next up is Phillies and Braves. We have Nola at Keuchel. This is another one where I'm kind of just going to stay away here. I've talked about in the past, ground ball pitchers are really horrible to stack against. And that's what Keuchel does. He's not a pitcher you can use because he doesn't have that strikeout upside that you want, but he is a ground ball dominant pitcher. And I mean, almost everything that he gets is a ground ball. So, it's not really feasible to stack the Phillies against that, especially with the other options on a 15-game slate. And then on the other side, Nola at 10.7 is a good pitcher. And don't get me wrong, I've been trying to promote Nola all year after the way he pitched last year, but he's just been too up and down. And he's been up and down, based on how good the offense is. And this is a Braves team that has been really, really good lately. And on top of that, Vegas, it's going to be 91 degrees with the wind blowing out almost 10 miles an hour. And Vegas has the Braves winning this game and getting 5.1 runs. Why would you pay $10,700 against a team that's going to get over 5 runs when you have Morton, who's going to be cheaper than that, against a Baltimore team that's barely going to get 3? There's just, again, in a GPP, if you're playing 150, have some exposure to Nola. But if you're playing 1, 2, 3 lineups, Nola is not the play today. Next up, we got the Angels and the Rangers, Jose Suarez and Mike Minor. First of all, and I wanted to do this when we got to the game, I'm going to take 30 seconds of silence for Skaggs. Pray, send your positive energy, do whatever you want to do. But I'm going to bow my head for a few minutes. Not a few minutes. I'm going to bow my head for 30 seconds. Do what you got to do, but this is for Skags, folks, okay? All right. 27. It's just too much to take sometimes. Life. So I talked about this game yesterday, and I feel the same about it today. Give me all the bats. I don't like either of these stacks as much as I did yesterday comparatively. They're just other teams that line up better than both of them. But I would still have exposure to the bats over the pitchers if you're playing multiple lineups, even 20 lineups. If you're playing 150, you should have exposure to everything in this game. But if you're playing 20 lineups, I would definitely have some exposure to all of these bats here. Mike Minor has looked very bad lately. It's just not. Oh man, did I lose the date here? I did. Oh no, there it is. 5.8 strikeouts per nine, with a xFIP of 5.65 and a Sierra of 5.35. He's getting really lucky. So his WHIP is 0.76, but his BABIP against is 159. There's just too much regression. The numbers say there's too much regression coming, and this Angels team is really nasty. With Trout, Upton, Simmons, Andrews, and Simmons back, there's just too much here that I would take a minor when, again, you have, other options that line up better, like a Morton or, even if you want to go to Corbin or Boyd, who I'm going to get to right now. The Tigers at the Sox, we have Boyd at Reynaldo Lopez. The Sox lineup just came out, and it's exactly what I had predicted. So there is nothing there that should really worry you. Matt Boyd is a fantastic pitcher with high strikeout upside. This is a White Sox lineup that strikes out all the time and are not very good. So I think, all things being equal, Matt Boyd would be a great option today. As it stands right now, Matt Boyd is the third most popular pitcher on the slate and the most popular expensive pitcher on the slate, and is projected to have double the ownership of the next closest pitcher, Charlie Morton, who's going to be at like 10%. So, while I do like Matt Boyd, I just think that there are, again, better options. I'd rather spend that $500 and take Morton against the Orioles. The Sox are projected to get 5 runs tonight. It's not like I said about the other guy. If they're projected to get 5 runs, Vegas doesn't think that Boyd's going to have that great a game. So there's normally a reason for that. So I would definitely look more to other pitchers in the area, like a Charlie Morton. On the other side, we have Reynaldo Lopez, who is a very interesting GP play today. If you're looking for a punt and you don't want to do the 5,900 on who the hell was the 5,900? Musgrove that I talked about earlier. Reynaldo Lopez has shown you 14 strikeout upside, even though almost every other start he doesn't. The reason that I would look to him today is, first of all, the Tigers strike out more than any team in baseball, which builds in extra upside for him to get the strikeouts. And then just honestly, everything after, Jacoby Jones leading off is a joke. He is awful. I don't care how well he's been hitting the last couple of weeks. Castellanos and Cabrera are good. Kristen Stewart is okay. Dixon is okay. Candelario, Castro, Mercer, and Wilson are terrible. That's 5 of the 9 dudes in this lineup that are easy outs and easy strikeouts. So while, Reynaldo Lopez isn't someone that I'm going to recommend very often, except as a stack against, He's not going to be owned today. And he has that 20 DKP. If he gets you 20 DKP, if he gets you 15 DKP, he's projected to be one of the highest value pitchers on the slate. Flat out. 15 DKP. And that'll let you get all the bats you want. I'm not saying it's safe, but there is a reasonable way you can take Musgrove and Lopez today, get 30 to 35 points from your pitchers, and then hope that the stacks that you take are going to go off because, there's some really nice ones today, really nice ones. Let's move on to a couple of those. It's going to be 80 in Denver with the wind blowing out 13 miles an hour. Ooh, boy, that is a hitter's environment, and it's in Denver. So, Jose Urquidy pitching for the Astros and Herman Marquez, who shows terrible splits for home road, are not looking very good today. On top of that, Trevor Story is probably going to be back, which is really bad for the Astros and Urquidy. So, I think that considering ownership, I really love Tampa Bay, and I think that you can get them relatively ignored today. But if you're talking about who's going to put up the most points on the board, put the most runs on the board today, I would think that the Rockies are going to be number one with the bullet, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Astros are number two, again, against Marquez, who is really bad at home, really does show those home road splits. I'm not really looking to the bottom of the lineup, but, assuming it's like Tyler White, he's only 3,100 in Coors Field. That's ludicrous. There's just too many options here that are too cheap, and you could still get some really good pitchers in. We have Altuve, only 4,200. Brantley's only 4,500. Gurriel, who's been hot lately, 4,100. Reddick, 4,200. Tyler White, 3,100. Trevor Story coming back, 4,500. Danny Murphy, 46. Tapia, 45. Tony Walters, 37. This is not a team. These are not two. These teams have not been adequately priced up. I wouldn't fade either of them. If you want to fade one, I would fade the Astros because Marquez is going to be a better pitcher than Urquidy. So the Rockies with Story back for the price and for everything else are going to be better. But I think both of these teams are absolutely going to go off today. I would not be surprised if this is one of those like 14 to 11 games. If you can fill your lineup with Astros, Rockies, and Rays, good on you, because those are the three that I love by far the most today. But yeah, especially with Story getting back, Altuve should be like 5,500. Bregman should be 56, 5,700. Brantley should be 5,500. Story should be 5,500. Arenado should be. Blackman's 5,900. That's where Arenado should be. Murphy should be in the mid fives. All of these guys are underpriced. So, this is one where it's obvious. Give me all of the bats. The Twins lineup is out. They're playing at 10 o'clock. That's crazy early. Next, we have the Indians and the Royals. Trevor Bauer taking on the terrible Royals team against Jacob Junis taking on a very hot-hitting Indians team. So that one, again, very easy here. I'd rather have Morton than Bauer, but Bauer is going to be my second favorite pitching option of the day. If you're talking about the high-priced guys, obviously they're going to be the cheaper guys that I've talked about that I like more. And then the Indian stack, again, I like them, but if you're going to be paying, high 4,000s for a stack, I'd rather go with the Rays or, some of those cheaper Astros or Rockies. If you're playing 150, though, definitely have some Indians in there. The top of that order has been hitting really well lately. Really, really well lately. And then let's see. Yeah, Jacob Junis just isn't that good. Next up is the Twins at the A's. The Twins lineup is out, which is basically what you expect. Kepler, Polanco, Cruz, Marwin, Crone, Arraez, Sano, Castro, Buxton. Nothing too crazy. You're going against a Daniel Megden, who's good at keeping the ball on the ground, is a mediocre pitcher. So, basically this is going to come down to like that other game I was talking about earlier. This is one of those avoids if you're playing only a couple of lineups. It's not like I dislike Odorizzi because I think Odorizzi is fine. This is more that, there's Odorizzi's extreme reverse splits, right? And I've talked about that before. So you don't want a lineup that has, people with reverse splits in. And if I remember correctly, Chapman and Laureano are two really good bats that are reverse split righties. And Chris Davis is no splits, but he leans right-handed splits. So reverse splits, excuse me. So that's three really dangerous bats against Odorizzi in particular. This is one where I could take a very sneaky Oakland stack, but I'm really not looking to this game a lot. They're just, like I said, if you're playing 150, go for it, but there are just better options there with the 15 games. It's not, this is not a small slate where you're lacking options. Next game is the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. I already talked about how much I like Stripling today, even with him getting 5 innings, 75 pitches. I would rather have Gallen for the Marlins because he has that 100-pitch upside. He can get the complete game shutout if everything goes right, and Stripling has zero chance. Stripling could be throwing a perfect game in the 6th inning, and I'll take him out. So there's just no bonus point upside there. So, Diamondbacks are a good enough team. I'd rather have Gallen there than Stripling, but both of them look very, very good today. On the other side, you have the Dodgers, who I would put as my 4th favorite stack today, underneath the top 3 that I was talking about before, but they would be, the next closest team to get into the top 3 with the Rays, the Rockies, and the Astros. Taylor Clark is not a good pitcher. The Dodgers are a very, very good team and the best offense in the National League. So, with Peterson, Verdugo, and Bellinger all hot lately, that's just one where, it's easy enough that decision. I don't need to overanalyze it for you. Next up is Cardinals Mariners. Flaherty is going to be extremely popular today, and I think that's for good reason. He is going to be pitching against a relatively poor Mariners team. I love Crawford. Vogelback is great. Narvaez is meh. Seager hasn't looked great this year. Beckham hasn't looked right. Moore's not good. D. Gordon can't hit very well. There's a few good bats here, but for the most part, Flaherty is going to be in a really good spot. The one concern I have is, again, he's going to be almost 30% owned. And there are other pitchers with similar upside, like a Gallen, that I would rather have than a Flaherty who has to go into an American League park, face a DH. There's just enough there that just looking at ownership can give you a reason to fade. Although, again, let's be fair, I do like Flaherty. I would rather have Gallen, though, given the ownership and given everything else. And then on the other side, we have what's going to be Wade LeBlanc pitching for the Mariners against the Cardinals with, who cares, it's an opener. Oh, that helps my stomach too. Okay. Wade LeBlanc, they are probably going to stack this lineup with righties. I have projected that Carpenter gets the day off today, and Tommy Edman is going to be leading off. Jose Martinez batting second, and DeJong and Goldschmidt moving to the 3 and 4 hole. So, I like the Cardinals bats, but there's just no justification for liking them more than, those other 4 teams that I've mentioned a bunch of different times now. And then we're going to end here with the Giants and the Padres. Padres are a sneaky stack today. They're very cheap, except for Tatis. But it's just, they're a good team, and Tyler Beede doesn't have the control yet. And as I talked about before, high strikeout type dudes that don't have control are really likely to just throw the ball over the middle of the plate. And now I'm worried because my wife said she was on her way half hour ago, and normally takes her about 10 or 15 minutes to get home, unless she was on her way to pick up my son, at which point she'll be home any minute. But either way, let's finish this up because we're getting there anyway. So Matthew Strahm is projected to be the highest owned pitcher today. I love him today, and I would have loved him regardless. 6,900 is just too cheap for someone with that upside going against the second worst offense in baseball. The only thing is, again, if you are trying to avoid ownership, you can't get on him when he's going to be over 30% owned. If you don't care about ownership and you're just looking for, what could be the best pitcher or who projects to have, some of the best value on the slate, Matt Strahm is absolutely one of them. This is not a Giants team that worries me in any configuration, much less against a lefty when Posey can't hit anymore, Longoria can't really hit anymore. Those two have been lefty mashers. Donovan Solano's leading off. That shouldn't worry anybody. Brandon Belt batting second doesn't hit lefties well. Austin Slater shouldn't worry anybody. Joe Panik doesn't hit lefties well. This is just a very bad Giants lineup. And Strahm is in a really good spot. So let's sum it all up for y'all. I think I made it perfectly clear, though. If we're talking top-tier pitchers, Morton is my number one. Bauer is going to be my number two. If we're talking pitchers in terms of value overall, I think Morton is still number one. I think Morton has a better chance of getting like 3 times value than almost any other pitcher today. And his price just doesn't justify that. Ooh, do you guys get to see Ada? Ada never shows herself. Ada, come here, sweetie. Ada's a really scared little cat. Well, she's not little, she's giant. But she's a scared little girl. And she doesn't often come out, ever. The only time she ever really comes out is if I'm alone and she's away from the other pets. The other cats really freak her out. And she just kind of wants to lay on my arm and have me pet her. So very rare. You can see her tail and her butt because I'm petting her head. But you don't get to see her. She's beautiful. And I don't want to pick her up because that makes her upset. And if you have any cats, that's not how it works. Aw, you're such a sweet girl. She's beautiful. One of these days when I'm doing a video on the laptop, you'll see her. Okay, so Morton's would be my number one. Gallen would be my number two. Musgrove would be my number three if we're talking value. And then it gets a little trickier. I think I'm going to say Stripling 4 for value and Strahm 5, but that really could be flipped. Either way, that should give you a clear indication of what I think the top 5 is going to be in terms of value, in terms of who I would target today across the different price ranges. And then in terms of bats, I made it clear Tampa Bay, just in terms of what I expect their ownership to be and the matchup they have against an Orioles team that does not hit well. That does not pitch well and gives up a ton of home runs. It's a good girl. She's named after Ada Lace, who was the female who pretty much helped invent computing. Yeah, right, Ada? No, she's not. She doesn't look very happy. Sorry, sweetie. I just want to pet you and let everyone see how beautiful you are. Okay, Rays lineup number 1. Colorado would be number 2. Houston would be number 3. LA would be number 4. I think the Miami lineup just came out, and that really doesn't matter because who cares? Rojas, Ramirez, Cooper, Anderson, Castro, Walker, Alfaro, Puelo. Doesn't really matter. They're going against a good pitcher, and you should really play them anyway. All right. so that's it. I have to go because I'm really nauseous. Thank you all for joining me as always. Thank you all for being so nice. Great questions. Thank you for the information, Ethan. You guys have a beautiful day. Best of luck tonight. Let's keep it winning for Robe Nation, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.